I've known about Anonymous 4 for many, many years, and probably was first acquainted with you guys through your medieval recordings and learning it through university and that sort of thing. And I just remember the recordings just being so spectacular and like sort of otherworldly in the kind of sounds that you were able to achieve together. And I'm a pianist and I have a chamber music background, but for me this was the ultimate chamber music because of the way you guys all blend together and the way you listen to each other and the way your voices really become one together. And you are an original member of the group, right?
Am.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about how the group came together and why you embarked on this? Because it's really a genre all to itself.
It is, and I don't think we actually knew exactly what we were getting into
right.
when we started. The way we started was this. All of us happened to know each other from singing in other professional ensembles, most notably Renaissance vocal chamber ensembles ranging from 10 to 15 members. A couple of us knew each other from playing instrumentally in other ensembles as well, because some of us are vocal and instrumentalists. And we always were working in groups where the focus was on polyphony, music and parts, on music of the Renaissance and beyond, and there was always a director. Those were the three elements.
Right.
So we got together to do several things, to try out, number one, hearing medieval music, an earlier bunch of repertoires in women's equal voices, and number two, to try working as a consensus group where everybody gets a say in how it goes. And of course in medieval music, having a say in how it goes means you have to do a lot of stuff, because you can't just buy music store and how it goes. We have so little information on some of these repertoires. The earliest of them, you can barely tell what the pitches are. The next layer, you can tell what the pitches are, but you don't know what the rhythms are. And even in the latest layers, where you can really interpret pitches and rhythms and where parts line up on top of each other when you have more than one part, you have no idea what the sound would have been like, how fast it would have been sung, whether it would have been sung smoothly or whether it would have been sung really dancily, or you have just no editorial information at all. So there are a lot of decisions to be made, and to do that without a director means that everybody has to decide together.
Which is a thrilling thing, really, because then you have the collective, the four of you, but you have an individual say in all of that, which I think is, again, at the root of all of the things that are great about chamber music.
I think it really is the root, and I think the closest you can get to that is some other ensemble that works constantly together, like a brass ensemble or a string quartet that really spends all of its time together.
Right.
And in the case of voices, there is no cushion, so that adds to the excitingness of all of it.
Right. So, sorry, what do you mean by no cushion? Can you explain
no
that?
Cushion. There's no instrument to just say, okay, this is where the pitch is. And so when you're in a vocal instrumental ensemble, somebody plays an instrument and you say, okay, that's where G is for today.
Right.
And I'm going to sing against that, and I'm going to sing in tune. When it's all voices, we are the being in tune, so we have nothing but each other to rely upon. So that makes that mutual reliance all the more important. And we knew this in theory when we first got together to read through music, but we didn't know it in practice until we actually got to the stage, having put together a couple of programs and gotten a lot of really positive response from our audiences that consisted of family members and friends. We got such positive response, and we had such a good feeling about it that we decided to commit ourselves to doing it together as a real thing. We put aside our other freelance musical work in order to focus entirely on ourselves in the time that we might have. And it was really at that point that we learned what it meant not to have a director and to have to rely upon each other.
Right.
And yet to contribute everything.
Right. Well, and one thing that I love about your aesthetic, and one thing I'm very excited about this concert this summer, is that your programs are so interesting. They're so integrated, and you've obviously spent a ton of time putting together, this summer you'll be doing Secret Voices and on the first half, and Gloryland on the second half. And I just love the way these programs come together. Can you tell me a bit about your process in developing a program? And the reason why I love it so much is that this is what Austin Chamber Music Center does during our year as well. We have all themed programs. So we bring together diverse music sometimes under the sort of blanket of narrative. And it's just a wonderful way of introducing music to people, and it gives them something to kind of sink their teeth into for the entire concert. So can you tell me about your process in putting together these programs?
Absolutely. This was actually number 4 on our list when we got together. We having performed in other kinds of groups where the programming was more in recital style, I would say. Here's a group of French songs, here's a group of Italian songs, right. Or here's a group of songs from the 13th century. Here's
very traditional way of doing programming.
Yeah, we decided that we really did want to focus on thematic programming. So from the very beginning, we wanted to do a program based on St. Nicholas, or a recreation of a sort, a modern recreation of a sort of a Marian liturgy, a liturgy devoted to the Virgin Mary, who was quite popular in the Middle Ages, I might say, or music from a certain codex, or some other thing that would tie it together. And those who go to string quartet concerts know that you can do it. You can go to a thematically programmed concert of string quartet music or not, but you're really only going to end up with somewhere between 3 and 5 pieces on the concert. With medieval music, the pieces are really short. So if you don't do thematic programming, you're going to end up with anywhere between 18 to 30 pieces that are short and have nothing to do with each other. My favorite piece is from the Middle Ages. And that can be a little hard, both for the performers and for the audience to process. So we found that it was actually easier for us to convince ourselves and be convincing if we focused on music around the life and miracles of St. Nicholas, or music from the 13th century French musical codex, or that kind of thing. So that's where we begin. And for each program, we have a shepherd, somebody who does the bulk of the musical research, and she will go to the library and find out what are all the possible pieces that would really work on our theme, and she will bring them all in. And in certain cases, it's not that much music to choose from. In other cases, like when we were looking at the 13th century French Codex Montpellier, we had 300 pieces to choose from, and I think we read most of them, and we had to narrow it down thematically even further from pieces from that codex in order to make any sense of it at all. So sometimes we're dealing with a small body of music within which to choose, and sometimes a larger.
And how do you decide who that shepherd or shepherdess is to find the music? Is it a personal choice? Is it? Tell me how that works.
Well, the division of labor has actually fallen out a little bit more naturally than that. When working on medieval programs, the shepherd really needs to be group member Susan Hellauer, who's also a founding member. She's the one who studied medieval musicology, advanced degree, etc., can translate at the drop of the hat, I have to say, from Latin to English, etc., and has many connections in the scholarly world, so that when something is just beyond us. For example, if we're doing music from the year 1000, when the way music looks on the page is a line with some notes moving around it. She can transcribe later music, but not quite that. So she knows who to go to for that kind of thing. So,
and you're a specialist in folklore and folk life, and so you bring that expertise in for the
exactly. So when we do American music, I'm the shepherd of the program, and then the group member Jacqueline Horner, before she came to Anonymous 4, specialized in new music. So when we're thinking about doing a commission and working through that whole process, she takes the lead there. And then each of us has various tasks that go along with the program. For example, if we're doing medieval music, I tend to work on historical pronunciation of language, etc., etc., etc.
What an incredible collaborative experience, and that you can all learn from each other in that way. It must just be an incredible joy.